Jump Festa 2025 has happened, and as always, Mr. Eiichiro Oda has provided his annual address to the readers and watchers of One Piece with information about what to expect next year in regards to the anime, the films, the live action, and most importantly of all, some tantalizing spoilers about what's going to happen in the manga. These messages are always a lot of fun to cover. It's a nice little annual ritual for us. And as usual, the translation of this message was done by Arta from the Library of Ohara, who is one of the most invaluable resources that the English-speaking fanbase have. But Jump Festa this year is a bit of a unique occasion because Franky's voice actor Kazuki Yao has retired, and so Eiichiro Oda started his annual message with a bit of a tribute. Super! Yao-san, I'll never forget the time you took me to that queer bar and the memories we made. Thank you for being Franky for so long. No matter where you go, we'll always be Nakama. And Subaru-san, I look forward to working with you from now on. I'm pleased to meet you. So this year served as both a farewell and an introduction. Kazuki Yao, in a shockingly sad maneuver, brought a Franky Speedo on stage and dramatically laid it down onto the floor, symbolically saying goodbye to Franky. And after he faded back into the darkness, Franky's new voice actor, Subaru Kimura, came on stage and picked up the Speedos. And this is such a classic One Piece thing where out of context it looks completely absurd, but in context it was actually extremely touching. And I do think this is a glimpse of what's to come in the future. It may not be next year, the year after that, even 5 years, but eventually all of the Straw Hat voice actors are probably going to have moments where they symbolically pass on the role to the next generation. So let's say Luffy's voice actor passes on the Straw Hat, Zoro's voice actor passes on Kuina's Wado Ichimonji, etc. Because now that one retirement has happened, this could break the seal and let everyone else know that it's actually okay to retire, because the full original crew is never going to be together again from this moment onwards. But in regards to our new Franky, Subaru Kimura, at the moment he's probably best known as the voice of Todo in Jujutsu Kaisen, but something that completely blew my mind is that he's also Tendo in Haikyuu, which shows incredible range. I never would have put those together. However, this does tell us that he's the right guy for the job, because both of these characters are, how do I put this nicely? I'm not going to. They're complete weirdos, lovable weirdos, who have to be taken seriously due to their respective strengths. So I do think that they found the best possible option given the circumstances. But let's get into the rest of the message. To everyone who came to Jump Festa, hello, it's me, the fit, primitive, and glamorous Eiichiro Oda. So this year marks the 25th anniversary of the anime, so we kicked it off with a whirlwind of events. The opening of the Harajuku Mugiwara store, and releasing the One Piece base app, to the point where 2024 ended before I even realized. So to cover this, if you've never been to Japan, then Mugiwara stores are the reason why I need debit cards to have daily spending limits. They're exactly what they sound like, a mixture of both permanent and pop-up retail stores that sell exclusively One Piece merchandise, and they frequently have limited edition items exclusive to the store, sometimes exclusive to the individual store, so you've got to visit more than one. I don't know how true this is, but it's said that these Mugiwara stores carry approximately 10,000 unique One Piece items. I didn't even know there were 10,000 unique One Piece items. But this makes them very dangerous for people like me. However, they're extremely popular, so much more popular than I would have thought for an individual store dedicated to one series. But with the new Harajuku store, there's now 15 Mugiwara stores, mostly in Japan, but there's also one in Taipei, one in Bangkok, and even one in Shanghai. Actually, I'm looking it up now, and forget what I said about Bangkok. Apparently, the Thailand store closed in 2019, so shame on you, Thailand. But the rest are still good to go. And as for One Piece Base, I believe this is an app that's going to be released worldwide in 2025, but at the moment, it's a Japanese app, and its main selling point is that it gives you the ability to read all of One Piece, as well as the Viviacard data books, a bunch of other stuff, and it even has a function where you can turn yourself into a One Piece character and make your own bounty poster with Oda's art style. I'm honestly not sure how this app would function with a worldwide release, because it feels like having all of One Piece on this app would be directly competing with Viz. And as for all the extra stuff like the Vivia cards, they don't even have official English translations. So I'll be honest, I've got no idea what this app hopes to offer us, and it might just be another one of those weird One Piece products. There's a lot of those. But you know what? What I would really love right now is an official app to play the One Piece card game on, because it's looking like the One Piece TCG is actually starting to get quite good. A lot of the complaints I had about the initial set release seem to have been addressed, and the cards themselves look and feel fantastic now. They've really invested into the art instead of all the lazy crap they were doing with the anime screenshots. But what I really need to just push me over the edge is a decent way to play it online. And I know there's a fan-made app, but honestly, it just doesn't look very good. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that someone made it, but it really shouldn't be up to the players to create the infrastructure to play the game it is you're trying to sell. But let's continue with Oda. I'm deeply grateful to all the amazing staff that contributed to One Piece. Piece. Fan letter was amazing too. Alright, so I'm very, very glad that Oda mentioned fan letter. One Piece fan letter was a project that was made to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the anime, and I think it may be the best One Piece anime project I've ever seen, and possibly even one of the best anime projects, just full stop. I didn't end up making a video about it, and I do kind of regret that because it 100% deserves your attention if you're watching this video. But the premise is that it focuses on a bunch of ordinary citizens and marines that live on Sabri Archipelago, and it explores a lot about how the everyday person lives in the crazy world of One Piece. For example, there's this really great segment that takes place during the Battle of Marineford, where we follow two stock standard marines doing everything they can to just not die in the presence of all of these godlike figures. And it's such a cool perspective of the One Piece world that we never see. Because from the very beginning, Luffy has been well above average. He wasn't even properly challenged until Crocodile, so he was OP right from the get-go. And so I really enjoyed seeing how regular people live in the One Piece world. The main focal point is a young girl who idolizes Nami, and who has been following the Straw Hats and rather cleverly figured out the 3D2Y message, and so it's now her mission to deliver Nami a fan letter. I really don't want to say too much more about it, you should watch it. I do believe it's something that every One Piece fan should experience, and if it helps sell it a bit more, it was directed by Megami Ishitani, who was responsible for some of the greatest One Piece anime episodes of all time, including 1015. It's also only 20 minutes long, which I think is my only complaint with it, which is more of a compliment. When it ended, I just wanted more of it. I would take an entire anime series just following the fan letter characters, and whoever else I wanted to throw in there, because it is a really cool concept for a more laid-back, expanded universe sort of One Piece series, more of a weekly slice of life anime that takes place on Sabri, and because Sabri is such a nexus point of the One Piece world, that gives you a brilliant excuse to have just about any other character show up for a cameo here and there. Although the ultimate takeaway from One Piece fan letter is just to let Megami Ishitani do whatever the crap she wants. I have yet to see something she's touched that hasn't turned to gold. And if I was Toei, then what I'd be doing right is I would open my vault, I would take out all of the money, deliver it to her doorstep, and get her to direct the next One Piece film, which Oda does address later in this message, but first. And particularly, I enjoyed my visit to South Africa, where the live action is being shot. As I wrote in my message on the experience, I was humbled by the love the whole staff and cast have for One Piece. A lot of people told me One Piece is already popular worldwide, so why even bother putting so much effort into a live action? Yes, it may be popular in the animation industry worldwide, but if someone told you new unexplored horizons await out there, wouldn't that make you want to go after them too? And that is, I think, the best way I've ever heard the live action described. It's very difficult to disagree with that because it's full on Luffy mentality. There's an adventure out there to be had, and so it shall be. And while I'm not the biggest live action fan myself, I have definitely been seeing its positive effects. Over the past year and a bit, there has been a fresh influx of One Piece fans who were inducted by the live action, and from there devoured either the anime, the manga, or both. So as far as I can see, it is acting as a pretty decent gateway. But I don't think that's the end of Eiichiro Oda's ambition. He has commented before on his desire for One Piece to eventually win an Emmy, which depending on how technical we want to be is very possible, because live action One Piece was nominated for 11 Emmy categories. However, it was for the Children's and Family Emmy Awards. So it's not, the Emmy, and it probably never will because it's being tied to kids TV. But I would be shocked and disappointed if One Piece didn't win at least half of its categories, because it's not going up against particularly strong competition. And this is probably the best way to think about One Piece live action going forward, to not go into it expecting prestige television, but to look at it as more of a family show. However, you can tell how much of Oda's focus is taken up by this project and where his passion lies, because just talking about it takes up a quarter of his Jump Festa message and there's nothing at all to say about it, which is kind of surprising actually. I would have thought that this would have been the place to announce the season 2 release date, because we're currently anticipating it to be next year, or at least that's what Garp's actor said, that the show should be ready before Christmas 2025. But enough about what Garp's actor said, here's more of what Oda is saying. So whether it's the manga, anime, film, or live action, I will give my best. Basically, we will be preparing for various new announcements next year for One Piece as well. Please look forward to the return of the anime as well. And I actually am eagerly anticipating the return of the anime, which will be April 6th in a brand new time slot. It will now be airing at 11:15 Japanese Standard Time on Sundays, which is a wild time slot. But it's very interesting because 15 minutes after the anime episode airs is when the new chapter gets released digitally worldwide. So now those Sundays are a bit of a double shot of One Piece. And it's such a huge shift from its previous Sunday morning time slot, which hopefully should come with less censorship issues. But I think that what most of us are hoping for is that this is going to fix the pacing issues of the anime. And I'm personally hoping for a scenario where we get new One Piece for 6 months a year, and the other 6 months is spent with a remastered project. Like how the remastered Fishman Island is currently being aired, which did have a bit of a shaky start, but I think has been quite good actually. But giving the One Piece anime a 6-month gap every year should allow all of the Egghead, Elbaf, and whatever happens from there on out to be done with decent pacing. But Oda did also comment on the future of One Piece films. I mean, sort of. He didn't confirm anything. A lot of people are posting on Twitter as if he did confirm something. But what I will say is that we are definitely due for an announcement. The trend with the One Piece movies is that there's a new release every 3 to 4 years, and the last one was Film Red in 2022. So we'd be looking at a 2025 announcement for a potential 2026 release. And I have no idea what this movie could possibly be. It's going to be a rough ask to top Film Red in terms of box office performance and the general scale of the project, so good luck to them. But finally, we now have the main meat of the message, which is Oda addressing the future of the manga. As for the manga, at last we have reached Elbaf. Everything seems to be laid back and all in this country, but the arrival of a certain man will break that calm. Meanwhile, we'll also see abnormal phenomena happening in the other oceans. That man will finally begin to stir up the world. Enjoy the breather while you can, for you may not get a chance to catch your breath again. So this is a particularly crazy message because Oda has used the term that man on 2 occasions, almost certainly referring to different men, and instead of that man, I'm going to go so far as to call them those men. And I do think we know who the first that man is, because Oda was referring to someone who would arrive on Elbaf and cause all sorts of problems, and it would seem very likely that this is our Shanks lookalike who appeared at the end of chapter 1134. And if so, that's quite interesting because it's now positioning him as more of the arc antagonist, which I'm all on board for. And it would be pretty funny if the second that man Oda mentioned was Shanks himself. And so those men are both Shankses making big moves. But there are a lot of other possibilities. Oda says that that man will begin to stir up the world, and it's always tempting to think of that man being Shanks because he's a simmering pot we've been waiting to see stirred ever since chapter 1, and I want to know what kind of 3-decade slow-cooked meal is going to come out of it. But mates, this is a big kitchen and there are so many other pots. As this could also be referring to Blackbeard, who is actively doing things. The last time we caught up with him was Lafitte infiltrating Umid Shipping Company, so Blackbeard is about to do something real big. And you know what, to give him all the credit in the world, Blackbeard is always doing something. During the Egghead Island arc, the Blackbeard pirates infiltrated Egghead, defeated Trafalgar Law, and took down Garp during the sword raid on Hachinosu. And you compare that to characters like Shanks and Dragon, and it's just like, what were you two even doing? Which, speaking of, Dragon should be kept in mind as a possible that man candidate, because the Revolutionary Army properly kicking into gear is definitely an act capable of stirring up the world, because it's not just about them as a faction, it would be about the Revolutionary Army inspiring entire countries worth of people to rise up against the world government. So maybe 2025 is the year that Dragon finally makes his move. I wouldn't bet money on it though. I've been burned a few too many times by expecting Dragon to do anything. But we should also talk about Emu. After feeling Joy Boy's throbbing haki thanks to Emmett, Emu may take a more active role in global events and become the world stirrer, especially because of the previous statement Oda made, which was that we'll also see abnormal phenomena happening in the other oceans. That's just it's such odd language, but it may refer to a continual rise in global sea levels, or anything else that Emu might be capable of, which is apparently lots. What I do really like about that part of the message though, is that it hints at Elbaf being structured similarly to Egghead Island, which involved large segments of not spending any time on Egghead Island itself, and instead following events in the wider world. And I really hope that's the direction that Elbaf goes in as well, because I think that Oda has struck gold with this format on Egghead. It made the arc feel so much bigger, and it gave us a nice break, a nice getaway from being in the one location for 2 years. And because we're really getting into the final saga now, I don't know how much more story Oda can afford to tell off screen, because we're now starting to play out the events that the entire series has been building up to. So I want to see what Blackbeard's doing, I want to see what Crossguild are up to, I want to see Dragon, Shanks, etc., all of them. And it does sound like a very exciting year. But this does come with a caveat that everything that Eiichiro Oda has said might not be happening this year and might be something for the future instead. Oda has a habit of overestimating how far his plans are going to get in any given year, and often his mild spoilers don't come true until the following year, which is especially important to keep in mind lately. In 2024, only 32 chapters of One Piece were published, which is on par with 2023 for being the lowest chapter count years in One Piece history. And from here on out, I'm not sure if it's going to get any better than that. This message has definitely made that clear to me. In addition to his health issues and the fact that Oda should be taking more actual rest breaks, arcs, Oda's ambition for One Piece outside of the manga is also gonna slow things down. But I'm extremely excited for 2025 nonetheless. I think it's gonna be another massive year, and my personal prediction is that 2025 is going to be the biggest year of Shanks to date.